Welcome everyone to the Dashboard Dojo. Today we're going to talk about Salesforce mobile reporting. So really excited to share with you what has been built and then what changes are coming with this Winter 23 beta release. So the beta release is already live. It went live about 2 weeks ago, and we'll take a look at that. I think most of you have been here before. So the dojo is a place to learn. We have lots and lots of recordings now. The most recent session that we did was on conditional formatting and Salesforce reports and dashboards. And that recording is up on the Dashboard Dojo site. There's a page labeled recordings. All right. So we're going to just do a quick introduction. We'll dive into Salesforce mobile reporting. I want to show you how to turn on some stuff and turn off some stuff. And then I've got a demo set up from my phone so that I can show you both the pre-winter 23 beta and then show you with the beta applied. So I'm kind of excited to show this, just subtle differences between them. We've got some training coming up. We've got an upcoming dojo in 2 weeks. We can take Q&A throughout. This group is small enough today that we can, handle questions that you have. And Kyle, hopefully you'll keep me honest with the questions.
I'll try my best.
All right,
chat is enabled. I know somebody had mentioned it was not working.
Oh, okay, great. And of course, look at that. I forgot to put a photo on today. I knew I'd forgotten something. So my name is David Carnes, and I have no photo today, so I'll just be the mystery man. So I'm the chairman and chief evangelist of OpFocus. Really honored to be a Salesforce MVP and a new community group leader. So after 17 years since I first attended the Boston Salesforce user group, I've stepped up with another gentleman, Charles Fosbrook, to serve as leader, which is a lot of fun. We had a really great meeting last night. So both Kyle and I are from OpFocus. We work with software companies to help optimize their revenue operations. Kyle, thank you so much. Kyle's our event manager and a longtime co-host of the dojo.
Oh, always a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's get going. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? And where did the image go? Oh, that's so odd. Okay, we're missing an image on this page, but no worries. So we'll talk about finding and installing mobile. So for your end users, we need to tell them where to go to get it set up onto their mobile devices. We'll talk about the app itself, how to keep it up to date. We'll talk about once you've logged into the app, sort of what's available to you. There is a special version of the homepage that users can enable. We need to teach them to do that. We'll also talk about accounts. I have 3 accounts set up on the mobile device that I'll demo. And it's very, very easy to just log in and log out of one. And, the use cases there would be, you might want to test something out in the sandbox before pushing it live. It's no problem at all to log into other Salesforce instances through mobile. So once you're in the mobile, we'll talk about navigation within the mobile app, how to set up the tabs. And there's certainly tabs, if you're not using them, they should be removed from the mobile app. You may need to talk to a system administrator to get help, but I'll show you where to do that. We'll talk about search. It's very common, especially in a larger org with thousands of reports and thousands of dashboards, to need to go find the reports and dashboards you want to use on mobile. So there are a couple of different ways that we can search. We have the global search, and then we have tab-specific searches, and then we have the new analytics tab. And it's sort of interesting to see how that surfaced. I don't think it was as intentional for mobile specifically when they introduced the analytics tab, but we have some benefits of that tab within the mobile app. So we'll talk about reports specifically. And reports is what's going to have the change with the move with this new beta within the Winter 23 release. So I think that beta, which is called Enhanced Reports, I think it's scheduled to be rolled into the app in the spring release. So that would be February. If not, then it would definitely be next summer. But there are a couple of nice things that they've done in prior days before this beta. You'd sort of look at a report and go, gosh, I should really probably change the report and make a mobile specific version of it. So we'll talk about setting up the mobile navigation. We'll talk about mobile offline. So by default, mobile is cached. And what that means is that if you're off Wi-Fi or you're in an area, like when I go fishing in Vermont, there's a lot of places where my phone doesn't work, and that's great. I don't want to answer the phone while I'm fishing. But you could look at a dashboard offline while fishing in Vermont uh, because of the caching that's available. So we'll wrap up by doing a demo of the old and the new so that we can see the couple of differences with the Winter 23 enhanced reports beta. Great. All right. It felt like a mouthful. So for
Oh, sorry,
finding,
David. Did you want to launch the poll?
oh yes, great. Thank you. I almost forgot. Look at that. Yes, could we do that? I'm just curious for the folks that are in the dojo today. How much does your organization make use of Salesforce Mobile? So specifically mobile is the question. So does everybody use it? Some people use it, only admins. Is nobody using it? Crickets? Or if you have no idea if it's used, that's even relevant information as well. So I'm curious for you guys. Thank you for sharing.
Keep it open for a couple more seconds. We have. All right. Thank you.
All right. So some people use it. I think that's true of most orgs. It's on by default. So there's nothing really an admin needs to do, though I would suggest an admin go through, and we'll talk about this in a bit, like how to remove tabs that just aren't being used in your org, or try to optimize them for specifically for mobile, which ones might appear on top. So this looks like a lot of orgs. This is my guess for most orgs. And there's really no, there's no idea if it's used. I think that that's probably pretty common too. You roll out an instance, you provide some training, but based on what we show you today, hopefully you'll encourage more folks in your organization to take advantage of it. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Kyle. Thank you for reminding me. All right, so you need to have Android 8.0 or later, or iOS 14.0 or later. And you can go into the App Store on your Apple device or Google Play. Once you search for the mobile app, it's just called Salesforce, and it's produced by Salesforce.com, even though they dropped the .com years ago. We can see that it has a 4.7 rating out of 260,000 ratings. It's been out for over 4 years. It's number 104 on the business chart. That's interesting. So they, up on the main screen here, it says we update the Salesforce mobile app regularly, and that is true. If you want to take advantage of the beta was released on October 17th. So if you haven't updated your mobile app since then, on the iOS, I could just go into the App Store, and there's a way to see the 50 plus apps that I have that are out of date. Click on that, scroll down, find the Salesforce one. So you're going to want to update your mobile if you're going to turn on the beta. This is one step as part of it, and then there's an admin step behind the scenes. So your end users would need to update the mobile app, and then an admin will have to go through. It's a couple of very simple steps, and you want to keep this updated because they are actively working. So when I met with the report and dashboard product team probably about a month ago, they were saying that the Salesforce mobile team is a different product development team, and they're very actively working on optimizing reports and dashboards, and that's where this beta came from. So it's actually a different engineering team that's doing the work on this. But their goal with this latest is to make the reports run 5 times faster. We'll talk about some of the other things that they've given us. All right. So the app itself, when you first go try to use this, you can use this on all editions of Salesforce, and you have the ability to log into multiple orgs, multiple sandboxes. To do that, up in the top left-hand corner, you've got a little icon of a head and shoulders. And if you click on that, you can change the account. You can add additional accounts. I now have 3 or 4 set up for my on my mobile device. Most of the features are available. Some of them are changed. Some of them have a slightly different footprint because of the real estate. But I'd say most of the features are available. And specific with reports and dashboards, we cannot create reports. We cannot edit reports. We cannot create or edit dashboards, but we can view them. We do have the ability to use filters. There's a couple of other things that we can do when we're using reports and dashboards. One of the things that stands out is the ability to favorite or unfavorite and do it directly from the mobile app. So when we log into the mobile app, one of the things we're going to see is that there's this thing called the mobile home, and your users, and I sort of love that it's a mobile home, meaning like a house on wheels. Uh, um, but this mobile home is something you're going to want to add to the app. It is one of the benefits, and what it allows your users to do is essentially pin a report at the top of mobile. Then there'll be a list of recent items, there'll be some other stuff, and then a list of favorites. And within recent items and favorites, people can have access to reports and dashboards and other things that they favorite. But that pinned report, so basically every user can have a single report pinned at the top. And there's one other little benefit to the mobile home is that it will actually show you the changes in the data, the delta since the last time you looked at that pinned report. Okay, so this is the mobile app itself. You've got an app launcher here so that you can see other apps. You can see a set of tabs here. The tabs are mirrored across the bottom. So you see here, I've got, this is my reporting app, and I can add the mobile home to my reporting app. But my reporting app and an app is just a set of tabs. It has leads, accounts, opportunities, cases, and they're just mirrored across the bottom here. And I can see more of them by clicking on the menu down at the bottom. So I talked about the mobile home, and this special mobile home, I think it's good for all users to take advantage of. They're organized into cards. And what we see is a pinned report at the top, and then we see a bunch of recent items and some other stuff, and then some favorites. So the pinned report on top, it's always waiting for you. You can easily change the pinned report and make it be some other report by clicking on the pencil and selecting another report. What I think it's really great, you can see I was speaking at North Africa Dreaming, and this is the Moroccan dollar. It's actually not the dollar, it's the Moroccan, oh, what is it called? Anyway, that's the currency symbol is MAD. That's embarrassing that I've already forgotten. And I've got a bunch of the cash in my wallet. But you can see here that this pinned report is showing me, since I viewed this 29 minutes earlier, and I purposely went into my dev org and made a change, and then came back and viewed the report before I took the screenshot. When I looked again at the pinned report, it showed that the data had changed. The average deal size had gone up. Probably I deleted a big deal that was larger than the average deal size. So by deleting it, the average deal size got larger. This thing doesn't make sense here. The record count going down by 8,577,000. I don't know what that is. But you can see that the deltas are showing up in here. So this is the mobile home. If we scroll down the mobile home, we've got that list of recent items, and then we have a list of favorites. You can see here, I've just favorited 2 reports and 3 dashboards here, but you can favorite, leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, folders, list views, all kinds of stuff. But the icons for reports is this green thing, and for dashboards is the gas gauge, essentially. So this is, if somebody's going to take advantage of mobile, you might want to teach them how to use favorites. The 2 of them together go great. So there is the global search at the top. You engage the global search by clicking on the magnifying glass, and then you search on a word, and then you have things that might match that. And that could be records, that could be reports, that could be dashboards. So the global search, I think, works fine as expected. We also have the ability to go to the individual report or dashboard tabs and search there. So if you click on the dashboards tab and you start searching for something, you can see I've got a list of recent items here, including bad dashboard example. There is also the analytics tab, which has its own search capabilities, but we now have lots of options basically to find stuff that are on our reports and dashboards tabs in Salesforce using mobile. So we've got good choices. So within the mobile reports themselves, and what I'm talking about here is before the beta. So we can run favorite and unfavorite. We can't create or edit. We don't actually see folders. That concept kind of disappears in mobile, though you can see it on the analytics tab. And I don't know that that was intentional or not, but it's there. But on the reports tab and on the dashboards tab, you basically don't see evidence of folders. You just, folders are respected. So if somebody has access to your global sales report folder, when they use Salesforce Mobile, they won't see evidence of the folder, but they'll see all the stuff in the folder available to them. So one of the odd things when you go to run a report, before the beta, and this is a screenshot before the beta, you have the title of the report, and then it immediately goes into column headers. But the column headers don't stay frozen, and they don't stick in place. The other thing you notice, this report, it says cases by origin and priority. The word by usually indicates grouping, and where did my groupings go? So before this beta has been released, there really aren't groupings that are easily visible. You actually have to scroll all the way over to the right in this mobile report, and you can see the column for origin, you can see the column for priority displayed, but sort of the whole concept of grouping was lost before this new beta that's come out. The other thing that's happened, whatever your leftmost column in the report, that actually stays frozen, kind of like an Excel column, and the rest of the spreadsheet can scroll. So before the beta, the headers were not frozen with the exception of the leftmost one, and the columns aren't frozen with the exception of this leftmost one. So it can be confusing without turning on this new beta. It can be confusing for end users who are looking at the data in a report because they see that this report is grouped by origin and priority, but it's not really clear that it is down in the data and who thinks to scroll way over to the right to find that. All right, so that's mobile reports. And there is one thing that does give us the summary columns on the report. It's called the highlights tab. So when you go to run a report, and let me actually see if I can show this here. So this is the prior screenshot. If I wanted to see the highlights, I could click on this report highlights. And what then opens up is this little sub tab here, which gives you the record count. And it actually shows you the changes, such as +1 for a case by phone and +1 case origin by web. So the data, it's showing you the delta since the last time you viewed. So that's a good thing, but it's sort of tucked away in another little sub tab. Well, with the move with the enhanced reports, the summary data, like this record count, is going to appear right below the report name. So there's a couple of changes that we'll look into with that. So for dashboards, one unusual thing about mobile dashboards is that they display in one tall column. So you can see here, I've got a dashboard with a my OneOps this month metric. That's probably the top left item on my dashboard. And then I'm seeing basically all the other components appear below. So even if you have a nicely laid out dashboard, it's basically going to be deconstructed and stacked all the components on top of each other. You may want to, as a best practice, if there is a dashboard that you want people to have an easier time to work with on mobile, you may create a clone of a dashboard, just simply save as, maybe put it in a mobile reports folder, maybe prepend it with the mobile my sales dashboard, use the word mobile. You can actually control the order that these appear in just by putting them one on top of each other. So the mobile dashboard, using it within the browser, would be kind of ugly looking because it'd be one big tall thing. but you'd have a little more control over how these appear, if it matters. So there is the born on Budweiser date here. So the last refresh date, we've got a refresh button. If this is a dynamic dashboard, we have the view as button here. We can also see that dashboard filters work in Salesforce Mobile. So if we come in here, if there is a filter to the left of the refresh button, the filter icon will appear, and you can click on that and then select which filter you want to apply. So I think this is nice how they've done this so that dashboard users can take advantage of the filters you've created in your dashboards while working on mobile. All right, so the analytics tab. So this is the tab that came out during the summer, which basically combines all of your reports, report folders, dashboards, dashboard folders, and all of your Einstein Analytics, which is now called what? CRM Analytics, putting that all onto one single tab. You could even consider not having a reports tab, not having a dashboards tab, but just having the one analytics tab instead. This has its own functionality, such as the ability to browse, the ability to have favorites. You've got a list of frequents, and there's a search capability baked into this as well. So there's a little filter icon that you can use when you're looking at a list to refine what's showing. And we'll take a look at each one of these tabs. All right. All right, so let's talk about when you go to set up mobile, you want to grab a sysadmin and actually have them help you just determine which tabs. You definitely don't want all the tabs available on mobile. So if we go into, I've got two Salesforce instances open. And as a sysadmin, if I click on setup and I go under apps, mobile apps, Salesforce, Salesforce navigation. So we can come in here and we can reorder, and we can, if you don't use chatter, why would we show that? If I don't even know what a smart search item is, I can get rid of that. If you don't use chatter, we can get rid of those. I might put, if it's the uses are primarily reports and dashboards, I could put those up at the top. I'd probably put the mobile home up at the top. You could just come in here and basically set it up the way you want. And I'm not going to change this now. I would definitely get rid of these things here. I might add the analytics tab. We'd have to basically turn on the analytics tab to be able to see it here, but that should be pretty straightforward to do. So this is something an admin needs to do. I would suggest, if you're not using these other things, to just get rid of them from the mobile navigation. Jorge, thank you for Durham. Thank you for telling me, you think I was just there a week ago and I should remember. But clearly I didn't sleep a lot after that. All right. So the one other setup thing to consider is the offline. The caching is enabled by default. If for some reason in your business that was a security risk, you might look to turn that off. So there's essentially two things. There's the master on-off switch to enable caching in Salesforce for Android and iOS. And then you can basically enable or disable the offline create, edit, and delete in Salesforce. So this doesn't impact reports, but it doesn't impact reports or dashboards. The second checkbox here, it impacts things like creating a lead. But this caching, so you can't use reports offline with mobile. You can use dashboards with cached data. So that may be a reason to leave this set. And to just look at this in the org here, we can see that both of these are enabled by default. I haven't touched this in this particular org, the enable caching and the enable offline create, edit, etc. One other thing I did in the OpFocus org, if I go up to branding, you can upload your logo. So you can specify a color, you can have a loading page color and a loading page logo. It's very easy to upload those things just by clicking edit in here. And you know, why don't we change the brand color? Let's make it something like purple. And let's see what happens when we log in. I want to see that purple. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You don't technically have to do anything. Personally, I like the idea of having fewer tabs and just really trying to optimize the tabs. So if we come back in here, let's actually go take a look at this before we turn on the Winter 23 Enhanced. So let me see if this is still, look at that. Very exciting. Okay, so this is the new screen casting. It's called Reflector. That's allowing me to basically, I'm holding my phone and scrolling on it, and it's displaying this on the screen. It's like magic. So the first time you log in, you are going to be presented with this this very basic page, and you have an app launcher up here, and you can see that I've selected the reporting app, but I've got my other apps in this particular org. Here's where a user can add the mobile home app, and it's very easy to add this. Literally, I just click on add to app. It says it's adding it. And now we have a new home tab that we can select. And if I click on this, I can see that I have a report that's pinned. And if I want to actually change that pinned report, I can come up here and pick something else. So this particular org, I've got this whole big set of random. So why don't I pick this all open ops by owner and stage? And you can see that I've got the sum showing here, and then I've got a few of the rows. So Bruce Kennedy, Catherine Brown, et cetera. To run that report, I just click on that anywhere on that card. And here's where, before you turn on the beta, what sort of I find, like, before working with the beta, I really would have liked the idea of having fewer columns. I wouldn't want this many columns in a report. So you can see here that the owner role, even though there's nothing in there, it's a frozen column. And I lose my headers when I scroll up and down. So even though the report headers are there, they're not really stuck in place. I also don't have that summary information up at the top, right below the words all open ops. And what I do have at the bottom of the screen is this little tab down here for report highlights. And if I click on that, I just need to flip it up a little bit, and I can see the summary information, and then I can see the groupings here. So before this beta, I would have said, I wouldn't really encourage people to dig into the data all that much. This report is grouped by owner and stage, and both of those, owner and stage, appear way over on the right within the table within the report. So this is what a report looks like. If I go back to the home page and scroll down, I've got some recent items like accounts and reports, and I can scroll down further and see a list of favorites, and I can see I've favorited an app and some reports, and I can just click on a report name to go run that particular report. And of course, it's taking its sweet old time. So this is another thing with the beta, that the reports are running 5 times faster. So that's a pretty significant increase. Okay, so you can see here that the leftmost column in this report is case owner, and that's frozen. And it looks like this one isn't grouped by anything. It just has record count at the top as the summary. So I think this is going to be great when we actually turn on the beta and actually see what this looks like. Why don't we go back to home? What I'm looking for is, do I even have any dashboards in this particular org? How incredibly odd. Okay, here we go. So here's the dashboards tab. Let's go look at our all dashboards, and I'm just sort of navigating by clicking on these things. I've got executive sponsor. It looks like I've got the pre-configured Service Cloud dashboard app installed in this particular org. Why don't I click on this one for key metrics? Okay, so the visualization, it looks good. I've got a Retina phone here. The visualization is good. It is one on top of each other. So that is just one consideration. You can see the refresh button here. This hasn't been refreshed since June, so I'll go ahead and click refresh. And it basically asks, do you really want to do this? So this is what your users will be experiencing. All right, well, I probably shouldn't hold my breath. I don't know how long this is going to take on this dev org. Look at that, it already finished. Okay. So now it's November 2nd. So what else can we do? We do have the ability, if you click on one of these components, you see up in the top right, I've got a little expansion icon, and I can essentially dig into the underlying report. And you can see here when I run this report that there's a chart at the top of the report. So it does visually look, charts I think look really great. We can scroll through the chart, we can scroll through the report data. All right, so this is basically reports and dashboards as it exists in Salesforce Mobile right now. Now, we can turn on this beta, and let's talk about turning on this beta. So there is a page here. I included the QR code on this to this page, Get Optimized Mobile Reports with Enhanced Reports Beta. So basically, there's something we need to do to turn this on, and it's probably the most unusual enabling of a beta that I've ever seen. Thank you for putting that link into the chat, Kyle. So turning this beta on is a little more unusual than anything I've seen, and if I were to do it, I've already got it turned on in this second org. And the place that we do that is, so again, it's a system administrator, comes under setup, and then they look for connected apps. So it's under apps. So a system administrator would click on setup, apps, connected apps, and manage connected apps. And then within here, what we need to do is look for two different things. And you need to do this twice. So basically, you need to know within your set of users, are there iOS devices and or are there Android devices? Some companies only use Android, some use both, some only use iOS. I've only enabled this for iOS. To do that, what I did was I looked at that beta sheet that Kyle provided the link in the chat and basically scroll down. And what we need to do is we need to enter the text, enable enhanced reports, and then we need to enter a value of true. And I'm going to show you how I made a mistake on this when I did this. It wasn't a bad mistake, but it was just one of those, it took me a minute to figure out exactly what I was supposed to do. But what I did is I came in here, I went to Salesforce for iOS. So clicked on the label. It's not clicking edit, it's clicking on the label to get to the connected app Salesforce for iOS. And then I scroll down. And what we need to do is add a custom attribute. And the custom attribute is essentially saying enable enhanced reports. And what we need to do when we add that is we need to give it an attribute value of quote, true, quote. So you need the quotes. When I put it in, I just naturally didn't put quotes. I just put the word true, and I got an error, and it took me a few minutes to figure out, oh, I literally have to put the quotes in there. So why don't we actually do that for the Android? So we go see what that looks like. I'm guessing it'll be the same. So if I come in here for the connected app, Salesforce for Android, and if I scroll down to custom attributes, and what we need to do is we need to come back to this file, copy the words enable underscore enhanced and underscore reports, and we're going to put that into the attribute key. And then for the value, we're going to put quotation marks, true, quotation marks. So I did this without the quotes, and I tried to save it, and I got an error, and it took me a little while to figure this out. that it's literally it's essentially, this is a formula and it wants text as the output. So the output of the formula as text would be within quotes. So if we go ahead and click save, this has now been turned on for Android as well. So what you could do, if you're not sure if somebody turned this on as an admin, you could come in under setup apps, connected apps, manage connected apps, come down to these two, Salesforce for iOS, Salesforce for Android, come in here, click on it, click on the label, scroll down and just see if the custom attribute is there set to true within quotes. So that's all I had to do to turn this on. Now I have another org ready to show you here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to home and I'm going to change the org that I'm using. So if I click on the little head and shoulders from the home page, I can see that I'm in this 71 org. And what I want to do is click on change account. And you can see the one with my face on it is the OpFocus, our internal system. And then I've got 3 dev orgs that I've played with over time. I think one of them is a trial account, but the normal Dojo account that I use is OpFocus 2. If I click on that, we'll log in. And you can see I've got a different pinned report here, and I've got all open pipeline. And you can see I've got the sum of the amount, the average amount, the record count. And if we go run this, we're going to see a different experience now because this is the enhanced reports beta. So number one, it ran really quickly. That's good. You see you have a title up here at the top, and then you have the summary row. So this is new within the enhanced beta. So I've just got 3 columns summed, but they appear right here at the top. You can see the chart looks great. And then if I come down into the data, look at the header row. The header row is staying fixed. Remember, the leftmost column was being fixed, not in the prior to the beta, but the leftmost column is no longer locked, and the headers scroll as well. And my grouping, it looks like my grouping is put over here on the left. This is probably grouped by stage because we see the chart with the funnel. It has to be grouped by stage to appear like that. So the groupings have now been moved over to the left as well, which is where we'd expect them to be. So I think this looks really good. If I come in here and I go to the reports tab, and I do want to show you there are a couple of little gotchas with this. So cross block joined reports don't work. In the version before the beta, it actually just showed an error and it said something about a dashboard, which didn't make any sense. At least the error is a little nicer looking now. It just says, hey, joined reports aren't supported. And if you wanted to, you could actually view that data, even though there's a link. Of course, it doesn't work. Maybe there's a little more to do. So let's come in and look at another report here. Are we enjoying the new reports experience? All right, we should have taken a poll on this one. So let's say yes. Oh, all right, I don't want to give feedback. So that's probably another thing to note. There's no inline editing in here. There's no option for that. But I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's let's see if I have another interesting one. All right, how about all leads by state? So I just think the experience is good. It's fast. I like the fact that the headers are in place. It doesn't make me feel like I need to create slimmed down versions of every report that I want to use in mobile. I just feel like I'm getting more value out of the reports that I already have in the org. I think this looks good. And they did get rid of the highlights tab at the bottom because the summary information appears at the top. So that's probably the other change with this. I don't think there are any change to the dashboard tab. I think this just stays the same. And once again, we've just got a tall. All right, it looks like I've got some dashboard components either that haven't been refreshed or it's in the wrong folder. Let's go look at this dashboard here. This one's a little more colorful. I think it looks good. So I'm curious what you guys think or what your experiences are. If anybody wants to raise their hand and share their experiences. Chris asked the question, does it handle rotating your phone from vertical to horizontal? I don't think so. I think it's all vertical. So Chris, I think that's still true. Thank you for asking the question. All right. Where did my chat go? Does anybody have any experiences with mobile that they'd like to share? We've got a few minutes. It'd be interesting to hear if anybody wants to raise their hand. Kyle can take you off mute. No pressure or anything. All right, looks like we've got one. So Bonnie, I'm curious, what's your experience with this?
So I actually had an error, and I think I threw the error to you about a month ago. And there was this report that my boss really liked, but every time he tried to run it on mobile, it would always give him this really strange error. It would give you a record ID, and I would try to search it out on Google and so forth, and no one seemed to understand what the error was. And so I finally figured it out, so I'm sharing my knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you, Bonnie.
So this report was rather robust, but it had a percentage column, and it had check boxes. And for whatever reason, I didn't take the sum off of those column headings. And once I took those columns and unsummed them, the report worked.
Huh, how odd.
I thought so too.
So I wonder if that you've actually found a bug that they probably just aren't thinking of people summing checkboxes.
Yeah, I don't know.
And just they probably never tested it.
But yeah, I learned that. So now the report works.
And is your boss happy? That's the important thing.
I suppose.
Okay. Oh, well. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Bonnie. I'm glad you followed up on it.
Yep.
All right, John Say. Looks like you're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. And the beta is, I enabled it and it looks so much better than what it was before. So thanks for walking us through that.
Sure.
It's not report related, but I have a comment for the mobile experience. What I find super valuable is that you can send notifications to the Salesforce Mobile App. So for instance, I have a flow whenever an opportunity is closing within 7 days, that morning it fires off a notification that you get on your iPhone as any other notification, which I find quite useful without opening the app. You know, it just displays as a notification.
Oh, that's great. So they probably have to have the app installed.
Yes.
And at least logged in once. And they probably have to have,
so, yeah.
They probably have to have notifications on. Like I noticed, like right before we jumped on the Dojo today, my sister, who's her birthday today, texted me to tell me that she's not feeling well and all this. And I'm thinking, I can't have that show up on my screen while we're doing the Dojo. So I went in and turned off all my notifications, and hopefully they'll stay off. But probably the app would have to have notifications enabled as well to rely on that.
Yeah.
But that's super cool. What a great use case, especially for a mobile heavy environment. You know, we haven't had road warriors quite as much with the last 3 years, but you know, we you know, some, depending on the industry or the organization, some organizations are so road heavy that the mobile becomes the only way they interact with Salesforce. So I think that's great, John Say. All right. Any other experiences with mobile that anyone wants to share? Cool. Okay, so we saw how easy it is to enable the beta. You know, I'd say why not? Probably the things that people are going to miss with that are actually taking the time to enable it for both the iOS and the Android users. We don't have control over what type of device your users access Salesforce with. We just don't have that control. We offer access with these two, Android and iOS. And if you want to enable the beta, you'd have to do it on both for it to work. So what else with this? We said basically you've got the report name, you've got the summary information ribbon. Let me actually hide this. You've got the summary information ribbon, you've got the column headers, and then you've got sort of easier navigation and clear, it feels cleaner navigating within the results table of a report. It is a bit more responsive. When we see that word means that the website adjusts to the size of the device you're using. So if you're using an iPad, it's responsive to that versus the iPhone. The 5 times faster load time, we'll have to just keep hammering it to see if that's actually true, but it does feel faster. It does feel a little more consistent. The other thing that they've done is they've improved the text wrapping so that the results look more uniform when you're viewing them within the mobile app. So I think all of that is very positive. So the caching is enabled by default, I mentioned, so we can go offline. And I mentioned that it works for dashboards, but not reports. You do get oddball stuff like this, that some formats just aren't going to be supported. Cross-block or joined reports are sort of always going to be in that sort of questionable category. Will it work the way I need it to work? But I'll still take the rest of it, even if joined reports don't work. So we've talked about a bunch of things today. We talked about finding and installing the mobile app itself. We talked about the app and what you get and how do you keep it up to date. We talked about the mobile home. We do need to teach our users to check that box to add the home and then teach them how to pin the report up at the top. A lot of people, if their job is, head of sales operations, they just kind of want to see what's the open pipeline, that they know what report they want to see and they can easily pin it to the home. There are a couple of different ways we can search. I guess if I were to show you one more thing that I didn't show you, it's actually the analytics tab. We should probably take a moment and do that. But reports and dashboards work a little differently within the app. I do think that the beta is worth it, given these changes. Regardless if you use the beta or not, you may want to sit with your sysadmin and just review the tabs that have been added within the app. So that's done through the mobile navigation, and just ensure that the offline works so that dashboards are supported offline. So why don't we actually take a look before we wrap up for today? Let's actually take a look at the analytics tab. And I should have that here. So what we see, just like on the regular analytics tab within the browser, we see the ability to browse, and you have access to all of your dashboards, dashboard folders, reports, report folders. And then if you have CRM analytics, you have access to that stuff too, such as your lenses. So I can come in here and just run a lens and look at my sales stage details. I don't know if this data is going to... years ago, I learned when demoing, you click the button and then you start talking because you don't know how long something's going to run. So, all right, I probably should have tested that first. But if you come in here, interestingly, you can see the folders. So I had a folder for North Africa Dreamin' when I was presenting, and we actually now, for the first time, have access to folders within the mobile app, whereas it had just been hidden. The folders permissions were respected, but they just otherwise weren't visible. But now they are visible in here. So what else? If I go back, I've got my list of favorites, and I've got dashboards that are favorited and reports that are favorited. I've got this new concept of collections, which I think we'll see more with this with reports and dashboards. It's available now within the CRM analytics, but I think we will get that ability in the coming year, the ability to essentially curate and say, hey, new CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, here are the 2 dashboards and 6 reports that we've set up for you. And you basically create a collection. So I think that'll be pretty great. So I've got my list of recents, and I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to show you here. Maybe if I go to browse, okay, here it is. So if I click on browse, I do have a search capability here. So I can browse recents, favorites, etc. I can essentially further filter this list of all and just see items that are recent. And again, I could click back up here and I could say just ones created by me. So we have slightly different navigation capability within the analytics tab. I'm thinking of companies that have thousands of reports and thousands of dashboards of how useful this could be. Yep. So Adriana, that CRM analytics is a paid feature. I'm using a special kind of dev org that I use this on purpose because there are thousands of sample records. It also has CRM analytics enabled in this particular org. So it is a paid extra feature. So great question. I'm sorry I didn't share that. All right, so let's hide this. And so I'm teaching again in February, the 15th and 16th at our 2-day hands-on report and dashboard workshop. Love to have you join us for that. We do have another Dojo set up on the 16th, so 2 weeks from today, on driving adoption for your Salesforce reports and dashboards. I worry that so many of us create amazing reports and amazing dashboards, and they just don't get used. So there's a couple different things I want to talk about, best practices. I'd love to hear your ideas in that session as well, if you'd like to join us. So thank you for putting the link in there. So Victor asked the question. How's it going, Victor, by the way? This is an off-topic question. We're undertaking a report cleanup project. We have close to 5,000 reports. Realizing a report record ID field is not available within a report makes me think data loader is not a viable path. Oh, so you could use the data loader, Victor, oh, is that funny? I'm trying to remember, is the report ID included within the data loader? I would think it'd have to be. So you could, why don't you just try it? And then you could report back to us. If you go into the data loader, do an export. You can export all reports. You can export all dashboards. You can export all dashboards components too, I think. But I think you should be able to get the ID that way. And then you could use the data loader to do a delete if you wanted to. So we did a whole session this spring, and I think it's one of the most popular dojos that we've ever done, Victor, on cleaning up the report and dashboard tab. So hopefully that would be useful to you, the recordings on the Dashboard Dojo site. Awesome. Okay. So any other questions that anyone has? So thank you so much for joining today. Thank you, Kyle, for hosting us again. I do hope you can join us on the 16th on driving adoption, but good luck with all your reporting and dashboard work. Thank you, everyone, for being part of the dojo.
Thank you, everyone.